There are moments in life when everything seems to pull us into silence, away from distractions, fleeting relationships, and empty routines. In that space of withdrawal, many feel a growing restlessness, as if something deep is reorganizing within the soul. When God, or the deep unconscious in Jung's language, prepares us for true love, the signs cannot be ignored. They emerge persistently, shifting the way we see, demanding inner surrender, and dissolving old idealizations. Authentic love is not built on illusions, but on the integration of all the parts of who we are. And this preparation, though subtle, is intense, transformative, and above all, inevitable. If you are experiencing this silent yet powerful journey, this script will reveal the 5 signs that simply will not stop appearing when true love is near. Leave in the comments, "I am ready to live the love that transforms." Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your support in the comments. This strengthens this space of consciousness and allows us to keep sharing content like this. According to Carl Jung's analytical psychology, the path toward true love begins within. Before we can live a deep connection with another, we must first walk through the labyrinths of our own psyche, confronting our shadows, recognizing our projections, and moving toward individuation, the process of becoming whole. When we speak of signs of preparation for love, we are really perceiving the symbolic movement of the soul toward integration. The shadow represents everything we deny or repress in ourselves and often project onto others. Superficial relationships tend to emerge from this dynamic. We expect the other to complete what we lack without realizing it. Preparation for true love, however, involves withdrawing these projections, a courageous movement of self-knowledge. We begin to recognize that what we search for outside must first be integrated within. Another central concept is anima and animus, the unconscious feminine and masculine aspects present in all of us. The journey toward authentic love requires these polarities to harmonize within. When that integration happens, we stop seeking unconscious compensation in a partner and start relating from a more mature and genuine foundation. God, or the self, the archetype of wholeness in Jung's work, guides us through this process, often through ruptures, silences, encounters with solitude, and even pain. These events are not punishments, but profound invitations to transformation. The signs that do not cease are manifestations of this inner calling, echoing the need to prepare for something greater, a love that reflects the wholeness we are building. At the beginning of every journey toward true love, there is an inevitable process, the withdrawal of projections. Jung described projections as unconscious parts of ourselves that we place onto others, especially in romantic relationships. When we meet someone and feel an intense, immediate connection, often we are in front of a figure embodying aspects of our own psyche that we have not yet recognized. Sudden passion, sudden enchantment. These are clues that projection is at play. This movement is natural in the beginning of relationships, but if not noticed and worked through, it turns into frustration and rupture. When God, or the self, as Jung named the organizing principle of the psyche, begins to prepare us for true love, one of the first signs is the breaking down of these idealized images. People who once seemed perfect reveal their flaws or simply disappear from our lives. It is not love that leaves, but illusion that dissolves. This moment can be painful. The shattering of idealization touches emotional wounds, activates feelings of rejection and abandonment, and may seem like a setback. But in truth, it is the first step towards something far deeper. The ability to love another as they truly are, not as we wish them to be. When we stop projecting, we start seeing, and when we begin to see, we can love more truthfully. The withdrawal of projections is often followed by a feeling of emptiness. What once seemed so promising now feels distant, yet this emptiness is fertile. It invites us into inner depth. We begin to realize that the intensity we were seeking outside had to be discovered within. At this moment, many people start to question, to seek self-knowledge, to connect with spirituality, meditation, or therapy. All of this is part of the preparation. Jung used to say that every meaningful encounter is first an encounter with oneself. When we stop expecting the other to save us, complete us, or rescue us from loneliness, we open the space for true love to happen, the kind that does not come to pull us out of a void, but to walk beside us on a conscious journey. The withdrawal of projections also teaches us to love without the weight of expectation. We begin to see that the other is not responsible for our happiness, and that to love is to accept the other as a being in process, just as we are. This understanding changes everything. It disarms anxiety, softens pressure, dissolves haste. Real love doesn't need to rush. It grows with time, nourished by presence, listening, and truth. This process is one of the clearest signs we are being prepared for something greater. Past relationships may have taught us what love is not, and now, without illusions, with clearer eyes, we can recognize the signs of love approaching, a love that does not impose itself, but arrives with peace. This awakening to real love is not a sudden event, but an inner construction that happens gradually, in small choices, in silences, in understandings that arise without words. When we notice we are less anxious to find someone and more committed to becoming someone, we are on the right path. True love begins like this, with the courage to stop projecting and the willingness to look within. And it is in that gaze that the soul prepares to love truly. Preparation for true love requires more than the desire to be with someone. It calls us to a deep encounter with what we most avoid in ourselves, the shadow. Carl Jung defined the shadow as the set of repressed aspects of our personality, feelings, impulses, desires, and memories we judged unacceptable and pushed into the unconscious. But ignoring the shadow does not make it disappear. On the contrary, it manifests silently in our attitudes, choices, and especially in relationships. When we are being prepared for authentic love, one of the most intense and transformative experiences is the confrontation with this dark, denied part of us. This confrontation is not always direct. Sometimes it comes through the behavior of another, that partner who stirs anger, jealousy, fear, or insecurity. At other times, the encounter is internal. We notice patterns of sabotage, neediness, pride, or control repeating in our relationships. This recognition is painful, but necessary. The shadow is not evil. It simply holds parts of us that were excluded, often by trauma, rigid upbringing, or social demands. Facing it is the path to wholeness. When we can look at these parts without judgment, we begin to reconcile with our humanity. And from this, we can also look at the other with greater compassion. After all, only those who accept their own flaws can embrace the flaws of another without turning them into war. True intimacy is born from this place. It is not just about sharing good moments, but about sustaining presence in vulnerability. The love that lasts is not the one that keeps us always happy, but the one that allows us to be whole before another, with both our light and our shadow. And this is only possible once we have walked this path within. God or the self brings us to this point not as punishment, but as an act of deep love. He allows us to be confronted with our abysses so that we can clear them before sharing life with someone else. What remains unseen becomes an invisible obstacle, silently sabotaging any attempt at real connection. The encounter with the shadow is then a rite of passage. It is not about destroying the shadow, but integrating it, recognizing that it too holds power, creativity, and strength. This process, though inner, reflects outward. We begin to attract people more aligned with our truth. We learn to say no more firmly, not from rejection, but from self-respect. We understand that not every relationship fits a soul that has met itself, and with that, our capacity to love deepens. Less need, more presence; less lack, more surrender. The shadow also teaches us about limits. It shows us where we are wounded, where we were manipulative, where we denied our feelings to be accepted. Bringing this to consciousness makes us more honest, more ethical, more authentic. True intimacy requires this honesty, being emotionally bare before the other and still feeling worthy of love. That is revolution, and it is this love we are being prepared to live. So if you feel you are facing old wounds, revisiting patterns you thought you had overcome, or encountering emotions you believed resolved, know this: it is a sign that true love is approaching. Not because you need to be ready in the sense of perfect, but because you are willing to see yourself clearly. The shadow, once integrated, does not imprison us, it frees us. And that freedom is the soil where deep, intimate, and true love blooms. In Jung's analytical psychology, the idea that we all carry both feminine and masculine aspects within us is fundamental to psychic maturity. He called these dimensions anima, the feminine principle in men, and animus, the masculine principle in women. These archetypes are not linked to biological gender, but to symbolic forces inhabiting the unconscious of everyone. Integrating these opposing poles is essential for becoming whole, and only from that wholeness do we become capable of living true love. For much of life, we project these inner images onto others. A woman idealizes in her partner a masculine she has not yet discovered within herself, a strong, providing, firm animus, or sometimes authoritarian and critical, depending on how that archetype manifests in her unconscious. A man, in turn, projects onto a partner the sensitivity, beauty, care, and intuition he has not yet awakened in himself, aspects of his anima. These projections create unrealistic expectations and unbalanced relationships, demanding from the other what is actually our responsibility to develop. When God begins to prepare us for true love, one of the deepest signs is this call to integrate our inner feminine and masculine. Life experiences, often through disappointments, ruptures, and challenges, lead us to realize we can no longer depend on another to access forces that must emerge from within. We begin to cultivate what we once sought externally: emotional steadiness, intuition, sensitivity, assertiveness, presence, balanced reason, deep listening, protective strength. This does not happen overnight, but as a continuous process of self-regulation and soul education. This integration transforms us deeply. The woman who discovers her animus matures her vision of love, no longer waiting for another to be the savior or guide. She walks with autonomy without giving up her sensitivity. The man who encounters his anima relates to the world and to emotions with greater empathy and intuition, opening space for deeper listening and more authentic bonds. Both come to love from fullness, not from lack. This inner maturity completely changes how we relate. We no longer seek in the other the absent father or mother, nor an idealized mirror of unconscious desires. We seek a partnership where two conscious beings walk side by side, knowing that no love can truly flourish when rooted in emotional dependency. Mature love is born from balance between giving and receiving, between yielding and standing firm, between caring and setting limits. And this wisdom arises from integrating these opposite poles within. Another powerful effect of this integration is reconnection with purpose. When feminine and masculine harmonize in our psyche, we feel more centered, more creative, more connected to our life mission. Jung said the self, or the center of psychic wholeness, can only fully emerge when these aspects are balanced. And this directly affects the quality of relationships, because we begin to choose not from lack but from resonance. The other ceases to be a patch and becomes a reflection of our inner state. Being prepared for true love is therefore also an invitation to soul maturity. It is not romantic in the idealized sense, but sacred in its depth. The relationship is no longer seen only as a space for pleasure, but as a field for mutual transformation. And to sustain such a bond, one must have made the inner crossing that unites within us the feminine and the masculine, intuition with reason, gentleness with clarity, receptivity with firmness. When this union happens inside, the love that arises outside is completely different. It does not come to fill holes, but to expand horizons. It does not pull us away from ourselves, but anchors us even more in who we are. And perhaps this is one of the greatest signs that true love is near, when we no longer expect another to save us, but instead desire together to live an experience of growth and communion. There are moments in life when everything seems to move with a mysterious rhythm, where small events gain deep meaning and seemingly casual encounters carry symbolic weight too strong to ignore. Carl Jung called these phenomena synchronicities, meaningful coincidences without direct cause that reveal the existence of a hidden order, as if life itself were speaking to us through symbols, encounters, sensations, and unusual events. When we are being prepared for true love, such experiences intensify, signaling that something greater is in motion. These synchronicities often appear in moments of inner silence, when we are no longer chasing love, but simply allowing life to flow with greater awareness. In this pause, the self, the archetype of wholeness and the divine spark within, begins to guide our steps more clearly. The self does not shout, it whispers, and to hear it, we must be silent. Not just external silence, but the inner quiet that comes when we release urgency, anxiety, fear of loneliness, and open ourselves to what is to come. During this phase, many begin to notice recurring signs. A song that plays at the right time, a phrase that jumps out of a book as if written just for you, an unexpected encounter with someone who awakens something forgotten, or an intense sense that something is about to happen, even without knowing what. These signs should not be forced or turned into superstition, but when perceived with attention and presence, they can be recognized as messages from the unconscious, showing us we are on the right path. Alongside synchronicities, this period of preparation is marked by a different quietness. It is not empty loneliness, but fertile solitude. You begin to feel well in your own company. You rediscover simple pleasures. You revive forgotten interests. The inner life blooms, and with it comes the realization that love is not something missing, but something possible when you become whole. This shift in perspective is one of the clearest signs that true love is approaching, because there is no longer desperation, only readiness. In this state of silent openness, the self organizes events with symbolic precision. Some people leave your life, others return. Some bonds dissolve gently, others painfully. But all of it is part of inner restructuring. It is as if the universe were clearing the field, removing emotional and spiritual debris so something new can be born. And this new can only bloom in fertile soil, a heart no longer occupied by the past, nor paralyzed by fear of the future. Jung taught that the self acts as an inner compass, guiding us toward wholeness. When we align with it, outer paths begin to reflect this inner alignment. True love in this context is not just emotional but spiritual. It is the meeting of two beings responding to the call of their own being. And this meeting is not random. It happens when both are ready to recognize in each other not salvation, but the mirror of their own journey. It is important to understand that this silent preparation is not passive waiting. On the contrary, it is a state of profound inner activity. It is when we heal old patterns, care for the soul, reconfigure how we see ourselves and others. It is when we stop measuring our love life by external validation and begin trusting something subtler, the wisdom that comes from within. True love is not built in noise but in silence. It does not arrive in haste but with purpose. When you notice synchronicities becoming more present, when silence no longer hurts, when your heart is at peace even without guarantees, then you will know the self is guiding you. And on this path, the love that comes will not just be a relationship. It will be a mirror of the transformation that has already occurred within. True love is not found by chance. It is revealed when we are ready to recognize it. The journey toward true love does not begin with another, but with the deep dive into oneself. When God, or the self in Jung's view, prepares us for this love, he does not hand us shortcuts but processes. The withdrawal of projections, the confrontation with the shadow, the integration of the inner masculine and feminine, and the silent signs arising in synchrony with the soul's maturity are marks of a transformation that repositions us before life and relationships. To love truly is an act of consciousness, not of need. It is a state of presence born from wholeness, not from absence. And the signs that appear along this path are not simple coincidences. They are echoes of the soul, saying that love is already in motion. If you feel you are living this transition, know this: you are not alone and the process has purpose. Trust the timing of life. Trust the timing of love. If this content touched you in any way, subscribe to the channel, activate notifications and leave your comment. Watch the video on the screen now. It may be the next step in your journey of self-knowledge and transformation.